Okay. Mhm. Okay, I'll just do one thing. So let me make okay, just go on our main YouTube channel page. It must be there.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, and I'll do some quick fixes on Twitch. Meanwhile, guys, if you're already seeing us, first of all, thank you very much for joining us today. So it's our stream Friday, when we are making a stream telling some news about the game and how everything works. Okay, so it's March.
Need to remind that you can join us on Discord and talk with us.
Okay, on Twitch I just fixed the description, so it's correct in year and month. Okay, so on YouTube it's working and everything's fine. So, Dere, I believe we are ready to start, right? Do you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so let's get started, alright?
All right.
Okay. Alright, so just don't you mind just giving a short intro to tell the guys who came to see us what we are planning to be talking today about?
Yes. Today we'd like to tell you about our characters and maybe you will find something new that you haven't heard before. And at the end of the stream, we have a little surprise for you. So we hope you will like it, and so please stay with us.
Okay, thank you very much for just giving some breath. So guys, you who already been seeing us for quite a time already, watching and following our social media. That's why I believe some information which I'm gonna be speaking right now today will be already known to you. But first of all, the people who may haven't seen everything and haven't read everything, that's why it would be a good idea to give them a short introduction about what's going on with every given character on the one hand. On the other hand, you just we want to sum up all our information, all some kind of reminds and memories how each character was developed, because it was quite a way to create every character in Beast Tower. So let's start with a very basic thing that in Beast Tower you can play either as a raider, a person who comes to seek for adventure and sacred resource arcana in the haunted city. You parkour, run away from beasts and compete with other raiders for these resources, while you also can choose the side of the beast, of the monster, to hunt. So we currently have two raiders and actually two monsters. These werewolves are quite same, they differ by only their skin, the color, that light and dark ones. Alright, so let's start with our quite iconic character, who is just was the very first character. Okay, there is the new intro from the keeper of the haunted city who greets everyone in the castle, in the haunted city, sorry. So, okay, Zelos, our queen, our brave, loyal, and fearless raider. So, Daria, could you just briefly say what do you think about this character? How do you like to play him and against him? What's your experience?
I like the concept of Zealous, and also I like to play for him. I think that it's very interesting character to play, and I like his style of of playing, and I believe that other guys will also like him.
So, and when you're saying about his style of play, how you could describe the way you would recommend using his abilities and mechanics?
I believe that, of course, someone has its own preferable abilities, but as for me, I like to upgrade firstly the ability to shoot because on the third level, if I remember that correctly, he had a very powerful ability, a zap, that you can push away other players, and I think that it's very strong.
Okay, and when you play against Alice, what strategy do you usually follow?
Against Alice,
Yes.
I'm trying to watch what he's doing because, again, as Zap is a kind of powerful ability, I'm trying to uh, escape it as much as possible because if he will shot you, so you will have little chances to win.
Yeah, well, actually, honestly speaking, well, for all the years I've been developing and playing games, I somehow trend to play usually some simple characters. I can't say that it's always like that, but still, taking account, for example, my experience in playing like League of Legends, I don't like some really complicated chars. That's why Zealous is a kind of, ideal character for personally me. Why? Because, as you know, every raider has several abilities which you can unlock and level up throughout the game. And among them, I can mention such abilities as like offensive ones, which allow you to deal damage and somehow force your opponent to leave you alone by just damaging them. Then you have abilities which help you to move quicker, to change your location just in a matter of seconds. Also, this helps you to go after somebody or and just escape someone. At the same time, these abilities are very useful when you make a parkour mistake, starting falling down or just failing to go up somewhere. They can just give you a second chance to repeat your parkour move. And the third abilities are defensive ones. They are kind of a second chance for each raider when you got caught in the corner or just shut off your HP. It's just a way to, okay, guys, I'll press this ability and we'll have some way to keep on. And if I play well and smart, I can survive and stay away from dying. In case of Zealous, you can see that he using this lightings which he can throw and shoot them. Also the teleportation ability, like this one. And also, let me just make a quick cheating. It doesn't work in the public versions, that's why don't be afraid of that. So you can use the special shield mechanics, which allows you to withstand damage for a short period of time. Well, actually, it works like providing additional HP for a limited period of time. So, as Daria described, and also what I've said about my playstyle, which I prefer, well, Zealous is a kind of very straightforward assault guy. So you can go fearlessly on your opponents, you can try to go low HP and know that you have a shield which will help you to survive a couple seconds where you can manage to outdamage your opponent and vice versa. And, well, he's really simple dude. I mean, as we do try our best in Beast Tower, so we want to make things which are easy to learn and hard to master. Well, yes, that's the motto which comes from, Blizzard philosophy, and we are quite okay with that. Because, It's really good approach when you give people some simple rules, but combining them together creates just tons of cool mechanics. The same thing works with our parkour, where you just have about 4 simple moves like 2 wall runs and a jump off directly from the wall and jump off along the wall, and that just creates tons of just unbelievable combinations which you can make. Also, our idea is to design simple and cool, and this what really worked well with Zealous. I can't deny saying that we have an idea what we can change in his abilities, maybe to make them deeper and more interesting and maybe a bit more complicated, but it's just a kind of, talks devs always have about what they already have done in the game. But for the current stage of the project, we're pretty happy with how Zealous is working and what mechanics it can provide for the players. Well, I think that we can now move a bit with the backstory of the creation process of Zealous. You see, as I've said just at the beginning of our stream, that Zealous was actually our very first character created for the game. At the very beginning of Beast Tower, and you may already have written about that have read about that in our monthly article on Steam and in every other social media, that as the first prototype of Beast Tower, we thought about making the game when about 10 players get spawned on the map. One, then 2 of them randomly chosen players turn into werewolves. They start hunting other players, and when they finish them, the finished players turn into werewolves too, increasing the pack size and starting hunting others. That was the idea. And at that point we thought that raiders would be a kind of just general character. I mean, something like in Fortnite, when your character appearance doesn't mean much regarding your gameplay, so it's just a visual, nothing more. So that's why we thought that, okay, we'll make some different gloves, helmets, other pieces of equipment which would allow you to construct any raider you wish to play. But after we spent some time developing the game, playing ourselves, sharing opinions, and also gathering the feedback from the community, it turned out that we are really, really into making the characters which have personality. So if you could remember such a thing, at some point on all our posters about Beast Tower, and you can find even one, I believe, in our Twitter, the Zealous is wearing a special mask helmet, right, which hides his face. And that was done just in order to somehow easy up making the characters, using the same characters, the same models, so people won't just be so won't notice so easily that actually it's the very same character, right? Just for the sake of having more diverse visuals. But then we decided that Zealous, as any other new raider, should be a unique one. So we removed the helmet, worked on his outfits a bit, and turned him into what he currently is. Of course, the idea was pretty simple. As I've said at the early beginning, when all characters were the same, we just thought about giving some abilities to a character which would be just useful in Beast Tower. At that point, you can knock down enemies for a short period of time with your shot, and you can use the teleportation in order to avoid being caught quickly. That's why these 2 abilities became the basics of Zealous gameplay, and taking account that the main idea was to make a kind of a, understandable steampunk dude wearing the steampunk glasses and some cool hairstyle and outfits, well, they suited well to make him rule the power of electricity. The main thing which took us, I believe, quite a time to come to, the idea of his shield ability, because at some point we couldn't find out which piece of gameplay was missing. And after we came to that, all the puzzle just was complete, And we were very happy with how Zealous should work, and also got the scheme which I already been talking to you about, that yes, we have the idea how all raiders should be designed, and that was really, really cool. Alright, Daria, what you say if we move to a next raider?
I believe that it's time.
Okay, so I need just to restart the game. So Daria, could you just give a short intro about the new character we would be talking about, the next raider, Yudoko?
Yudoku. As I always mention, Yudoku is my favorite character, on which I play mostly of time, and I like her because for me she's very comfortable, I suppose. I like her poison abilities. That you don't need to shot directly on your opponent. You can just throw a poison, and there is already a big chance for you to damage someone. And also her ability on the again on the third level of a poison cloud, as I remember.
Blinding gas.
Blinding gas, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, blinding gas is also a very powerful ability that always helped me during fightings, and especially at the end of the game when, for example, you want to grab a key and escape from the map, but there are some other raiders or there are beasts nearby, and it's very useful to just to use blinding gas and to grab the key.
Yeah, so as Daria mentioned, Yudoko is a kind of more complicated character than Zealous. I honestly would recommend you to start playing Beast Tower as Zealous, and after you get used to the mechanics of the game, you mean make timings, spacings, main gaming tactics and rules, then it would be a good time to move with Yudoko. Really. Because, you know, Zealous is, as I've said before, quite a straightforward guy. Just deal damage, block damage, avoid damage. Simple things. Yudoko is about damaging over time. So she creates these poisonous gas clouds, and if enemy steps in one of them, he or her get poisoned for some time, losing health every given second. And the more they step into the poisons, the more damage they get every second. And that's why you need to clearly understand how that works to avoid being just getting in some straightforward exchange of shots, and try to kite your enemy, try to make them make mistakes, because when you're playing against good Yudoko, at some point you would notice that you've been chasing her for quite a time already, and you just somehow didn't even notice how you have lost all your health, and it just would take her a shot or two to finish you. And that's why how smart Yudokus works. So because actually she is inspired by an image of the, you know, first Red Cross servants, which I believe was some kind of nuns during the First World War, and the most craziest weapon of this epic time as poisonous gas. That's why she's a kind of anti-medic character, and even her name, Yudoko Hiro, somehow reminds the combination of Japanese words which mean the poisonous doctor. There is actually a very interesting story behind that, which I will tell a bit later after we've done with describing her gameplay. So, in terms of her abilities, you already seen how everything works. I'll just use one more thing. So, the blinding cloud, which Dore mentioned, works like that. So it's a huge cloud, and everyone who steps in would have their sight reduced for a very limited distance. Then you have a powerful jump, which lets you make huge jumps just in the air or from the ground whenever you like it. And her third ability actually is very interesting. So on opposite to Zealous, it's not a straightforward shield, but an ability which helps you to get reduced damage and which actually won't let you to die, right? But for the exchange of such invulnerability, you can't attack. And if at the first level you just get this protection, on the second level things change. So you can hold the attacking button and leave behind yourself a poisonous trail, which very good mean of escaping and avoiding being caught by your enemies who just, you know, follow you without just even trying to avoid any poisonous gas of yours. So that's Sudoku, how she works and what tactics you should follow when you're playing this character. And as I mentioned before, a short story about her name. Well, you see, guys, we really want her to have a kind of an Eastern feel, so to have some references of Japanese, Chinese culture, and other things connected with these countries. That's why we decided to give her the name, which somehow would remind of these countries. That's why we chose this combination of Poisonous Doctor and find a Japanese word combination which would mean the thing we wanted. And you see, we were very somehow cautious about the situation, that we would make a mistake and her name would sound just funny or even rude in Japanese. Because you maybe have seen lots of funny videos on YouTube or in TikTok when some people who are fluent in Japanese or are native speakers, they make reviews on tattoos which some famous people and public people like singers, actors, and sportsmen make on their body because they want to write some cool phrase in Japanese to have some samurai feel about that and blah blah blah. But taking account the glyphs which they chosen and the way they are written in the you know, which one follows which one and even on what part of body this thing is written, it would have the completely different meaning. Hopefully at that time we were joined by a person in our team who is very fluent in Japanese and can speak this language easily. And after review, this girl told us that, okay, maybe its sound and in Latin is written in a bit wrong way, but still it resembles very well what you wanted and it doesn't sound offensive at all. That's why we decided that, okay, that's cool, and we would use the way it's, you know, we have it, because honestly speaking, her name shouldn't be written like that. You see, it's Udoku actually, if you read it according to the rules of English, but we pronounce it that Udoku. And of course, there should be a different letter between U in order to have the sound we want, but well, that happened how it happened, and we decided that we not gonna change it. That's it. Okay, so Daria, maybe there is something you can add about Udoku, or maybe share some story of your playing her?
What I was just thinking about is that Yudoku's ability to jump is I mostly used during the parkour, but talking about Zealous, his blink, I believe that it's very useful during fightings also, because it's an easy way to confuse your opponents with the blink.
Well, you see, I would agree that Zealous' ability to some extent is a bit stronger than Udoku's, but it just gets compensated by the fact that she uses a lower cooldown to use it. and you can also level up a special upgrade which lets you reduce the cooldown just tremendously while you are not touching the ground with your feet. I mean, using when you are parkouring or when you are falling or jumping. Also, during fights, you can use this ability just to quickly jump up. You don't need to raise your camera like that in order to have an up jump. Well, I would say that in my view, well, it really matters on the way you play and the way you want to play, how to use this ability. Well, still, I'm happy that all these abilities of both characters are used for the same purpose, but built completely different. Well, that's a kind of opinion of mine which I want to share.
Yeah. Here is a little druid asking how are we doing, and also
Oh,
hi,
yeah.
little druid.
Hi, Druid. We're fine. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Well, we are doing okay. We've been for quite a time already, and guys know about that. And sorry for not giving you any dates. I apologize of that, but that's the way we work. We hate telling something and then failing to do it. We are preparing for the new open alpha, when we would try to provide quite better service of networking and also to give you lots more things to try in the game. That's the thing. All right, so Daria, I believe we can move to beasts, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Little druid says that I'm sorry, he or she.
He is here. I know him.
Oh, okay. That he likes the idea with the winch, but I believe it's about ropes.
Yeah, we have the things which we call escape mechanics. They let raiders to get some edge when they get chased by beasts. So, for example, you have a rope which quickly lets you, just raises you to the top of the building, or zip line which allows you to move quickly down from any height. So that's why it's the way we try to, the way we give, we balance the situation, because beasts are stronger, they are quicker, and they can just make tremendous jumps all over the map and just do crazy things. Okay, so Daria, what's your experience of playing werewolf and playing against werewolf?
As long as I play this tower, I can say that I still can't master werewolf. For me, it's a very hard character, and it's very difficult for me to play for him. So still, I'm not playing a lot as a werewolf, but I can say that in the game against werewolf, there is best tactics for me to keep the distance from him, because he has very powerful abilities of melee attacks, and it's you need to watch for him in order he is not just jump at you, because this way you can lose easily.
Well, yeah, actually, werewolf is a kind of, I would say the essence of the word predator, because as soon as this beast gets on you and starts following, chasing you, usually it won't let you go until he gets finished or you finish it. That's the idea, because, well, you see, on the very early stage of creating Beast Tower, we had just a very simple idea about what the game we are making. The idea was just easy as that. It was parkour from werewolves. Not even from monsters, but exactly from werewolves. That was a kind of an image in our mind which helped us to create the game which we are working on right now. So why we were choosing werewolves? Because werewolves are cool, because they can jump, run, climb, and in most movies you can see, like Van Helsing or Underworld, you always can see werewolves climbing vertical walls or even just climbing on ceilings using the power of their paws, the power of their feet, and just sharp claws. That's the thing, because for a parkour game, it was just an ideal monster to play with. Then, when we started developing Werewolf, it just took us quite a time to understand how to create his chasing mechanics. So, if you can notice, it just may look very simple. That after a werewolf runs several meters on its back legs, it goes on all fours and increases the speed dramatically. Before we came to this simple and easy solution, we tried things like making stamina, making special abilities which allows you to run faster, but that wasn't working really well. And as I would say that the main motto of our team is design simple and cool. That's why we decided that, yeah, let's do something really simple, and that started working. So his other ability is typical to all predators, is a powerful jump, which helps you to cover great distances, which can be also used for purposes of escaping. And also, when you hit your opponent with this ability, it immediately gets knocked down and makes an easy prey. And the third ability, which came actually from the image of our werewolf, which looks not only like an actual wolf or hound, but as a kind of an ape creature. So when he is moving, he is using his fingers in the way like chimpanzee or gorilla uses. And that's why the next ability came pretty easy, and we decided to make it a kind of a ground hit in the way usually King Kong or any other popular apes do. Like that. The hit is so powerful that it just lifts into the air all the opponents, making them stay there for a short period of time. Alright, so another very interesting thing about werewolf, yes, I already mentioned that before, but actually that was also the idea behind the fact that when we have a very first design, the prototype of Beast Tower, then when you get caught by and killed by a werewolf, you turn into a monster yourself. Well, that's the kind of a thing which comes from most legends about that creatures, that they are very, very tough and regenerate any damage easily, and also provide their curse to anyone who was bitten by them. And yes, another important mechanics which all beasts and beast towers share, it's a kind of a thing that if you lose some health, if you don't get damage for a short period of time, which is showed by white stroke around this piece of interface, as soon as that gets completed, you start regenerating quickly and restoring your health. So that was the idea, just to solve the problem how beasts can heal, and also to give some mechanics that if you damage a beast heavily, it would need to hide for a short period of time and wait until his HP restore, giving it a short break and providing time for raiders to have just some rest. Yeah. So, and Daria, that's a kind of a thing we wanted to share about werewolf, but maybe you could add some interesting story which happened to you when you were playing against this creature, or maybe there was some interesting questions in the community about Beast Tower werewolves. What you can remember about that?
I believe that the most popular question about werewolf is why his tail is not that shaggy.
What was his tail?
Why his tail is not that shaggy?
Shaggy? You mean not like so little fur?
Yes, yes.
Well, You see, guys, when we were developing a werewolf, we tried different types of tails. Some even a variant without no tail at all. And somehow when we made this long and, fox-like or wolf-like tail, it was so huge that somehow the beast, the werewolf, stopped looking a kind of, dangerous. It was looking more like some nice fairy tale creature, something furry thing. That's actually the idea why a werewolf has so little fur. Apart from the fact that it turned out that having a lot of fur is quite resource consuming. We also wanted him to look more dangerous and look more frightening. That's why I decided to leave most of the body naked. That was a kind of our solution behind, what was actually behind this solution, to say better.
Yeah, I can say that the game against werewolf sometimes is a real horror because he can jump on you from nowhere.
You see, it's a very funny thing which keeps happening with me quite often. Well, guys, honestly speaking, I've been working on Beast Tower for quite a time already, for several years already. And of course, I played many hours of this game, just a lot of hours of this game. And at this time, you may say that, okay, you already know everything and nothing can frighten you. Well, just let's think about some horror movie which you've been watching for hundreds of times and you know already at what point who will scream and how that would appear. But, well, game is game, and each match is a unique situation with unique people and unique decisions which they make. And each time we play Beast Tower, it keeps happening with me that I get a kind of a screamer. When I run through some narrow corridor, when I jump from some height, at that point, a werewolf jumps out of nowhere and I just shake in my chair. And that's such a kind of a magic which keeps happening with me all the time. So, Daria, I believe you have some kind of experience like that.
Yeah, I can say that that's really a frequent moment.
Okay. Alright, guys. So, we've talked quite a time about the werewolf, and now it's time to move to our next beast, which we just announced and showed last year. And of course, that's the vampire. Okay, Daria, just as usual, just tell what is your experience of playing this beast and against this beast, what you can say.
I really like play as a vampire because he's a very, very interesting character. I like his ability to glide, and I can say that for me, vampire is much more easier than werewolf. I don't, I can't just explain clearly why, but it's just how it feels. And against vampire, mm, I'm not sure that I have a special tactics against playing against a vampire. So I'm just trying to do my best and win if it's possible.
Yeah, well, guys, vampire was a kind of an obvious choice for us when it came to making a new beast after the werewolf. Because, well, you see, which monsters are most popular in dark fantasy genre, in dark fantasy movies, books, and fiction, right? Well, vampires and werewolves, they are just coming together and taking into account a lot of role-play games, video games, comics. Well, it's now a kind of a usual situation to make that there is a kind of, always it's kind of a war or some tension between vampires and werewolves. They don't like one another and usually come to fighting or just having even wars. And after the success of such a franchise as Underworld, starring Kate Beckinsale, well, this story came even on another level when they used this kind of an idea of Romeo and Juliet, a story when a vampire girl loves a werewolf guy. Well, that's why we decided that we should use this idea and to make the vampire. Of course, when we design our beasts, we try to make them, well, similar to what you see in pop culture, so you won't get confused who is who and what to expect from these characters, but still we want them to look quite unique. So we used this bat idea, which quite typical for all the vampires, but still to make him a kind of a mutant, like some flying dinosaur or some giant bat, which won't be so usual as what you see, especially taking account that he has one pair of arms and has to use his wings in order to hit things like that. So, okay, let's just talk a bit about vampire's abilities. First of all, of course, is gliding. So we just had lots of talk about what we should do with this flying mechanics, because just making a vampire fly all over the map would be just crazily and intensely strong, because, well, the huge map, a lot of heights, a lot of places you can hide. So we made gliding. That means that vampire can't actually fly, but it falls slowly, which allows you to cover great distances if you climb on a very tall buildings and make a jump from there. Okay, another thing which comes from gliding is diving attack. So the vampire just dives quickly and throws his body on the ground, just hitting with AoE effect and damaging everyone behind. So it's quite strong attack, but you lose lots of control when you're using it. That's why always be careful when you dive, because first of all, you can miss. Secondly, when you are flying and diving, if you get damaged, a thing like that would just happen. So you just fall on the ground until you can't control your opponent until you touch the floor. And that's a very good tactics to fight against a vampire as a raider. When you can see a vampire diving at you, just throw something in him and it would just fall on the ground and be stunned for briefly, which would give you time to evade or continue attacking the monster. So, as you know, was already noticed that vampire uses the same, beast parkour, which as werewolf do. But if you have a special, that's why if you don't have anything around you, I mean, like some wall or some building, it would be complicated for you to climb. So we decided to make a kind of an escape tool with a shift ability for the vampire, which lets you to get on height quickly, and then attack from there if you wish, or just escape if you got into some tough situation. And the third ability is a powerful wing flap, which allows you to bash away your opponents with a force of wind, and it's very useful if you want to avoid some damage or if you want to control your opponents. So we decided that it would be cool to have the creature with all this, wings mechanics, because, wings are a quite big part of his design actually. And of course, when we were developing the mentioned gliding mechanics, I can't miss saying that we were very, very inspired by Batman games, like Batman Arkham Asylum, or like Batman, Daria, it was the third game in the line about Batman. Arkham Knight, Gotham Arkham Knight, that was the one.
Yeah.
And it was just amazingly cool in terms of gliding and diving and all the things, which really, really inspired us how to make the vampire. So, and Daria, sometimes in the team, people would say that the vampire is more powerful than a werewolf. What would you say about that and why?
Maybe because I can say that his flap ability is kind of powerful because you can again bash away your opponent, and while he is stunned, you can make great damage. And also, Vampire has a very interesting tactic that you can fight with someone and then fly away, and after some time came back again and continue your fight. And with that tactic, I suppose that sometimes you have more chances to win.
Well, actually, yes. So if you play as a werewolf, usually you need to follow your prey until you finish it, or you will be forced to give up your chase. In case of the vampire, it works a bit differently, because you just glide above the city, you notice somebody dive down, deal some damage, and in order to be keeping your competitive edge, you need to keep, going up and down, going up and down, because that would make it harder to hit you, and also make it easy for you to hit your opponent, because he or she would never expect where to wait for the next attack. So that's how the vampire actually shines with his abilities.
So should we go to the next?
Sure, I see.
Our surprise.
Okay, so time for surprise, right? So, okay, guys, those who follow our social media and who watch our streams, you already may have seen or even read the full article about the new raider we've been working on right now. So before showing this character to you, I just need to notice that it's a kind of an early prototype, and not all the animations are final, and even some of them are just placeholders. And also we are ready to show you very little of this character's gameplay, because we're still thinking and considering what type of abilities we would be using and why. So bearing that in mind, let's move and show you our next character of this stream. Okay, let's wait for the character lobby to appear. Then so this dude is Drake. So Daria, what do you think about Drake, and what you could tell about this character to our community?
That for me, Drake is really amazing, and I can't wait to play it on matches. And I also like his idea about a jetpack that gives him like how to say it, something similar to flying.
Okay, so yeah, actually Drake is, first of all, even as it comes from his name, this character is inspired by dragons, drakes, and all types of creatures of fire-breathing reptiles. So, on the other hand, you may know about such a famous personality in history like Francis Drake, who was called the Royal Pirate, or the Pirate of the Queen. He was well known for his raids. Well, again, the word raider comes handy. During the colonization of the New World, of the South America, I believe. At that time, well, yes, he was a kind of maybe the most successful and the most famous pirate of all the times. And taking account that our Drake is a kind of not very simple guy, but with his own backstory and motivation for coming to the haunted city. Well, it came very well mixture of these words and ideas to give him a name like that. Of course, the Raider is about fire, and he can throw fireballs, and his signature ability is to use his jetpack in order to actually fly. So he can really fly, even compared to the vampire. So, but how did we manage to, balance this such a strong ability? Well, you see, on the one hand, you can say, okay, if I can make a move like that, how you never call me the most strongest character in the game? Because I can escape anything and I can catch anyone. But guys, actually you have a very limited amount of, well, I can say petrol in order to make these moves. And in order to move around the haunted city efficiently, you never should forget about parkour, because if you just waste all your fuel on some useless jumps and moves, at the time when you get chased or being faced by a powerful opponent, you won't have anything to do with your escape ability. And that's why my main advice when you play as Drake, always keep an eye on your fuel meter and always try to avoiding using it if you can go without it. Alright? That's why we would say that it's a kind of a very important, start for us when we develop Drake, because, having a signature ability always helps with, building the gameplay of a character, because you can usually describe a well-designed character with a simple phrase. For example, in case of Zealous, it's okay, electricity steampunk dude. Yudoko is a kind of the one who poisons, right? And with Drake, you can tell, okay, that's a guy about fire and a jetpack, and that works very well. Well, also I need to notice that in the design of this dude, we use some vibes of the German and Austrian soldiers of the First World War. You can notice that his helmet looks pretty like, the firefighters one, but honestly speaking, this type of helmets were used in the First World War by the mentioned countries. But actually the story of this armor goes quite deeper into the history, and especially that what mastered this shape by the Roman legions, because it protects a very well defense of your neck, and it's quite light and easy to wear. So that's why sometimes in comments people call Drake a firefighter, but actually, oh guys, it's a military culture which inspired his design and look. Okay, Daria, and what would you say about maybe some next characters that our community usually asks for in the comments? Which creatures or raiders come to people's minds when they see what we're doing?
Just today, I've told to one of our followers, and he said that he'd like to see someone as a as a real hunter against beasts, and also as our game has its fantasy side, that he'd like to see a Frankenstein in
You
our
mean
game.
a Frankenstein monster?
Yes, I suppose.
Because you see, yes, actually about the Frankenstein, there is a very interesting situation, because that's a kind of a monster which always comes to mind. Because as I mentioned, werewolves and vampires are very popular part of dark fantasy, universes. But honestly speaking, the most popular monster is, who do you think? Hmm?
Can't imagine it.
Well, I was also really, really surprised when I learned it, but it's, well, when you, as soon as you hear it, it just makes sense. It's zombies.
Zombies.
Yes, zombies
Yeah.
are most popular dark fantasy, dark world or any time of the dark, cities, dark countries, characters, monsters. And, well, actually, we can call the monster of Frankenstein a kind of a zombie. That's why it makes complete sense. The point is that usually when people hear the word Frankenstein, they imagine this big, hulky creature made of the of dead bodies and turned into some kind of a living being with a power of electricity, with all these strange tubes and pieces of metal coming from his or her body. Well, but actually the fact is that if we take the book, that the name Frankenstein comes to the scientist, Victor Frankenstein, who created this creature, and has nothing to do with the actual monster. It's called the Frankenstein's monster, maybe, but never the Frankenstein because it's not its name. I can't say that I may be 100% right, but the full name of the book somehow is not even the Frankenstein, but it's a bit more interesting. And also, I believe that maybe, according to the plot, this crazy scientist created not one, but several beings like that. And one of them was actually called Prometheus. That's why, guys, I would appreciate if in the comments you will just dig into this question because it also interests me. That well,
You're right. It's Frankenstein and the mother Prometheus.
yes, all right, because actually this monster has its own name, which Victor gave it to his creation, but nobody knows because very few people actually read this book. Okay, guys, we are about 3 minutes left of our stream. That's why if you have any questions, please drop them and we will be more than happy to answer them. Daria, and are there any things about characters or maybe about some interesting thoughts of the community which comes when we are discussing this topic, which you would like to share just to maybe give some funny story or something like that?
Actually, here is a person who said that each time our game looks better and better, and he can't wait to play it.
Yeah, thank you very
And
much. That's really encouraging. Thanks, Matt.
yeah, and also since I speak to community like very often, so I can say that mm, quite frequently people asking if we will have someone like a spider or a crocodile as a beast.
Yeah. So, guys, honestly speaking, we have quite thoughts about what new raiders and what new beasts we gonna create next. And of course, we have a kind of a plan about what we would do and how we would do. I'm not ready to share all the thoughts with you because this is just paper design and some talks in the team. And I can't say for granted that if I would tell you about some idea and you may like it and starting voting for that, that we'll be ready to create this one, right? But what I would tell you is that at least with the first line of our creatures, we want to cover the most popular images and ideas which you can find in pop culture, but still try to stay unique with the design and with some interesting additions and solutions which would make you like that we just didn't copy paste and repeated the thing which we have seen for thousands of times already. That's what I can promise for. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry guys, I have a small technical issue which I just managed to fix. Okay, so I believe it's all that we wanted to tell you about Beast Hour for this Friday. So Daria, thank you very much for hosting this stream with me and for telling a lot of cool stuff about what people tell about our characters in the community.
Yeah, thank you too.
Thank you guys for being with us today. And as we always say, the beast will come. See you soon and follow our social media. That really makes a difference.